Hello from Lassen National Forest. We are right outside the Lassen Volcanic National Park here in California. Today is September 3rd. We've been in California since September 1st we got in. We went into the Redwoods. We should have spent more time there, but we were just kind of boogieing because honestly, as soon as we left Oregon, we just knew it's just getting closer and closer to the ending of our trip. We have 17 days before the goal to get home on September 20th back to Pennsylvania. Not exactly excited, but in a way I am happy to go home for sure, to deal with some things and change some things about the van. And that's something that I definitely want to talk to you guys about in this video, and I know Michaela's going to want to add her 2 cents because, you know, obviously doing this trip for essentially 3 months, there are things that we have learned about our setup and what we thought may be efficient and turned out not to be, and just dealing with that day in and day out and just making things easier. You know, honestly, the inside of the van, things are always moving around every night. Something goes in a different place sometimes. Unless we're settled in one place for a couple of days, it's been pretty hard. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here in this video, guys. The storage situation with this van is terrible. And I'll be the first one to admit, the entire conversion and project was kind of rushed, honestly. It was finished July 1st. We left and hit the road July 1st. So the situation could have been a little bit more thought out for sure, but that is why I'm excited to get home, to look into new ideas and better ways, which we will talk about. I am very excited to dive into those things and hopefully do them this fall/winter and make the van more efficient for the next trip, assuming that we keep this van long term. And by long term, I mean for the next 1 to 2 years, realistically, before upgrading to something with more space. So let's get into the topic of today's video, the storage.
Okay, so this is a typical day in the life for us. As soon as you open up, there's a lot of stuff that just clutters on this countertop. So for instance, all of our pantry items are in the back, and we don't have the back hitch off yet. So we have to keep things here until we take the back hitch off. So it's a lot of moving things, taking something out, moving it back because it's in the way for something else is honestly the reality of our build. You'd say, yeah, I would say.
I agree 100%.
So like, for instance, since we have a cooler style fridge and it lifts up, it's awesome because it's counter space. But then again, you have to move everything, open up the cooler, shut it, move everything back. So it's a lot of back and forth. I'm sure other van lifers would say the same thing, that, you know, it's a lot of moving back and forth, but it's just a lot. It's just annoying.
Yeah, we've kind of ran out of like room to put stuff, it seems. Like,
so we don't have a lot of food storage.
Yeah.
We keep our food and water in a 5-gallon bucket. And then everything that's cold goes in the cooler. And then I also have the pantry, but then we keep the pantry things in the back because we usually cook in the back. So you also kind of have to make a list of like what's snackable in the front and what are we going to make in the back kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also right now, since we're traveling long distances, we have Pat's big computer, which when we go in the future, we hope to get a better laptop, and you know, we can use this for something else. You know, dry food, somebody's clothes, toiletries.
You can fit. When I had the computer in my friend's house, you can fit so much stuff. Right now, I just have the Mountain Dews in there, some clothes, even. Yeah, that's what because we'll get into all of the clothing storage, but that's exactly on par with the topic of the video.
Yeah. And then, like, my mom gave me this awesome shower caddy.
You've been using it for dry food?
Yeah, right before we left, which we've been using for dry food. It just keeps everything organized. It's functional. Like, I do like the one thing I do like is the shoe area. Yeah. It's nice and tucked away, and our gross shoes or whatever can go in there.
Let's show the peeps. Yeah. They have shoes and 4 outlets under there, which the cooler is plugged into.
So that's nice. It keeps everything like nice and tucked.
Wouldn't change that.
Wouldn't change that. That's great, functional. But, and also, in another way, we could probably put a door in the front here.
By our bed.
For better access.
For sure.
Rather than lifting the whole bed up.
Yeah.
So another thing about our storage situation, this So when you need to get something under the bed, you not only have to let me make sure all of this is moved.
And cables aren't in the way.
Pat's charging station. I have to clear this half of the bed.
Yeah, pretty much up to the seam.
So this has to get, everything has to go back. And then I crank this forward, and I have
to. It's a two-person job.
I have to give it a good shove. So then that stays. And then Joe so awesomely put this handle here, which without this handle, I don't know what we would have done.
Yeah.
It would have been a pain in the butt. So I hold it open, and then I'll hold it open, and Pat reaches in and gets whatever we need.
Yeah.
So now that that's done, then you can move everything back. And since I'm a girl, I have a lot of clothes. So all of this is pretty much stuffed for me. And we just found out that my shelves aren't as thick as Pat's, so he can fit a lot of stuff.
And this is, again, I have a lens in here, but it's socks, you name it, clothes the whole way down. Again, not that much storage, folding pants up and putting them behind this wood. I have all of my hats up here, shirts up here. It's obviously, this stuff is not here when we drive. We have a system for when we drive, but overall, it's generally pretty cluttered.
And then my clothes are in here.
Which,
I'm constantly living out of duffel bags. So I just wish I had better clothes storage.
Yeah.
And maybe in the future idea, I think I may do like a toiletry caddy that hangs off of one of the door cards. Because again, I'm living out of this shower caddy.
Nice. So moving on to the back, we just took off the cargo rack. That is Michaela's favorite part of pretty much every day. There are occasional nights where we don't have to do it. Obviously, if we do a motel, we don't have to get in there.
Or we plan it perfectly.
Or we just plan it perfectly and it has hookup and we already ate dinner maybe. We can just pull in, plug in. Or we don't have a lot in the cooler and it's like, well, we ate soup or something. For a while, we were keeping the stove up top, bungeed to the top of the cooler. But again, you want to get in the cooler, you have to take that off. Sometimes, well, it was rattling the entire time. Mm-hmm. So we moved that to the rear because anyway, in the back was all of our
cooking utensils
and pantry, if you will. So let us show you the back. So it's kind of the same system in the back as it is in the front. We have the handle up here. You really have to, well, there's a bunch of stuff on it, so I don't want to spill everything because that's something that happens often too. Crashes into stuff, things go flying. Same concept as it is in the front, except we would like to incorporate something kind of like this in the front, obviously smaller, so we can just reach in and grab stuff.
Yeah, that would be so nice.
But then again, it would be also still pretty hard to reach in there and get anything out because everything would be bigger than the hole.
Yeah.
So again, it's just we need a better layout. As you can see, we got the stove. That's our pantry stuff. We even have things on the sides of the bed. So it's pretty jam-packed, I would say. And with the rear cargo rack, I don't think Michaela and I realized how much we would. Also, this thing in the
different material. We need to do a different material.
Yeah, obviously different material for sure. But you go to shut it, it won't shut, and it's annoying. So we have to shut this half, and then you don't have to worry about it. But basically, I don't think we anticipated how often we would be taking this thing on and off, how heavy it would be, how often we would be using the generator. Initially, it was a lot of campgrounds, so we didn't have to really worry about it.
Initially, yeah.
The stove was in the front. But this setup, I am honestly completely over. After this, future trips, even a weekend trip, I don't want to have to deal with something like this.
No, I do not want to have to deal with that cargo rack.
This has to go, and the inside layout needs to be tweaked for sure. Different materials, and probably just an overall different layout, and probably a full demo of what's behind the driver and passenger seat and beyond. Like, I think we have to strip to get more width and be able to fit things in a way more convenient space. Because it sometimes makes it not fun, like driving for 4 or 5 hours to find a camp spot at 10 o'clock at night.
To unload.
Just unload and wake up really early to put it back on and hit the road. Over that, can't do it anymore. Kind of glad that we are on the last 2.5 weeks of the trip to go home and think of new ideas. And we've thought of a few, and that's definitely something that I want to talk about. This is the biggest pine cone I have ever seen personally.
Hold it up to your head. It's huge.
Big pine cone. So I think the three things that we're gonna definitely do differently, upgrades if you will, is number one, new bed layout. We need something different, maybe something a little bit more modular with like two bench styles on one side and an open, like something like one of those benches would store the other pieces in the middle, or like the bridge, you know, whatever design we kind of do there, something that's open that you can walk through. The headspace obviously is what it is. We don't really like need it, but it would be nice. But as far as what we're dealing with, new bed for sure as far as the design of the bed goes, and maybe even the dimensions, and see what we can do if we were to do a full demo and get more width. Maybe we could sleep this way, because as of now we're sleeping this way. Then number two is going to be a roof rack, which is something I wish we would have done before we left. Didn't really think about it too much. Definitely need a roof rack. No rear cargo hitch and box or any of that crap. We can store bicycles or bees that seem to follow you everywhere you go. We could store bicycles, paddle boards, whatever it is that we want up top, and it's out of the way. A little ladder or something that you can just kind of climb up top to grab whatever you need would be way more efficient than pulling this heavy thing off. And the nights that Michaela and I forget to take the generator out and try to pull this thing off and it pinches your back, it's not a fun time. Third, we're going to definitely upgrade to solar. No more generator, no more lugging it around, no more gasoline. Yeah, solar over the generator would be way more efficient. Wouldn't have to worry about the generator not starting, taking the crap on us. That happened twice. The smell of gasoline, dealing with gas, buying it, storing it in the cargo area, which you don't want to put anything else back there besides other crap that smells like coolant, oil. So just dealing with that somewhere up on the roof rack would be nice. And then having the solar to power all the electricity in our van, I think would just be a win-win situation. Overall though, for our first trip, our first real van trip across the United States for nearly 3 months, this, I really wouldn't have it any other way. Just again, the planning wasn't perfect and it just is what it is, and it really didn't mess up anything. We were still able to do this trip, and looking at it in a brighter way, I would say it's only going to improve from here. We've dealt with, you know, the van in what I would consider to be its, you know, roughest form. It's only going to improve from here. There definitely are things, you know, that we love about this van. If I didn't have a massive computer, we would have a lot more storage, and the layout probably would be a little bit more friendly, where we can store the things that we don't use quite often underneath the bed and the things that we do, and dry food. Just the idea that we took this van that we've had since 2019 and it's been sitting around recently, and decided to act on this idea pretty fast with the help of Joe. Without the help of Joe, none of this would have been possible. So I'm super thankful. Michaela and I are super, super thankful. So thank you, Joe. Seriously, without you, we wouldn't be out in California talking about the little things that we want to change about the van. So excited to get home and look into new ideas, roof rack, solar, and different options for a bed layout. If you have an E150 and have a cool different layout, please hit us up on Instagram. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications, and hit that like button, as it helps the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you in the next video.